slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't.
For Nigel Mansell, the 1991 World Championship ended here, lap 10 in Japan. But with his gritty challenge over, he looked as though a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders.
I was just relieved to be able to walk away from a 200-mile-an-hour, shunt, basically, because deceleration in that gravel sideways, I was worried that the car might flip. And I went into that corner, I had no deceleration at all from the brakes by the time that I was running off the circuit. And I mean, that worried me a lot. So it was relief from the point of view of being out of the car and in one piece and, you know, everything working. And then I'd say that, look, you know, the championship was over in Japan, but it was not lost in Japan. And you must remember there's a big significant difference. You know, the mathematical opportunity of winning the championship went away in Japan, but the championship was not lost in Japan. It was lost at the beginning of the year. It was lost for two reasons. One, the rule changes went from 11 races counting for the championship to all 16 races. So that made it a reliability championship as much as a speed championship. But our problem at the beginning of the year, both for Ricardo and myself, was reliability. I mean, we didn't finish any races for the first 3 or 4. I mean, there's Ayrton got 40 points up on the board, and I got my first points, which was second in Monte Carlo, and I was 34 points before we even started.
We have achieved 3 championships out of 4 years, 2 in a row, and we were runner-up in the 4th championship, but we were really fighting for it all the way, so it's been tremendously successful, and it's something that I have achieved, let's say, for myself, 3 championships, but driving well or not well, fantastic or not fantastic, is something that I was only able to achieve when I finally got associated with a group of people which gave me the ingredients to fully develop my own potential and gave me the atmosphere to perform to my very maximum, and that means the McLaren people.
And here today in Adelaide, Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell continue their fight. Mansell in an effort to equal Senna's 6 wins, and both of them to help resolve whether McLaren or Williams will win the Constructors' Championship here at the last Grand Prix of the season in Australia. But their great rival, Alain Prost, is missing. The most successful Grand Prix driver of all time, dramatically and demeaningly fired by Ferrari for criticising his car and the team's management. Prost's enforced departure has given Ferrari's test driver, Gianni Morbidelli, his chance for stardom, with his racing debut for the great Maranello team. Like Prost, Brazilian Nelson Piquet is a 3 times world champion, but sadly it seems likely that today's Australian Grand Prix will be his last, with his departure from the Benetton team. But Nigel Mansell's only problem for 1992 is to hone his Williams Renault to perfection. Here in Australia, he's been testing a new version with computerized hydraulic suspension, and it looks good. Dramatic action from Mansell, but it hasn't all been smooth for Nigel or a lot of others.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. to hear words, you could say them better.
Afternoon from Adelaide, and I refuse to say good afternoon because it is absolutely diabolical, as you can see for yourselves. 1989 was the year that we thought that we had had the worst weather imaginable for a Grand Prix race, but sadly at the present moment it is looking as though 1991 is going to be a repeat. Earlier on this morning the rain was on and then it was off again, but at 1:15 a most gigantic rain cloud burst over us, and you can see now that it is still belting down in Adelaide. As far as I know, there has been no decision to delay the start, which is due in 5 minutes' time for this 81-lap race. An 81-lap race where all the pressures of the World Championship have been lifted. Ayrton Senna has won it. There is, however, a pressure on the Constructors' Championship, which is led by the McLaren team. 11 points ahead of Williams, and the McLaren cars, both of them, are on the front row of the grid. Ayrton Senna, after that sensational fastest ever lap of Adelaide, which you have just seen, 1 minute 14.041 seconds, a speed of 114.2 miles an hour. I doubt that we're going to see any like that this afternoon. Gerhard Berger is alongside Ayrton Senna, or just behind him. But the bad news for Berger is that he has had a stomach problem all night. He was severely hydrated and he's in second position. Then the two Williams cars of Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese, followed by the Benettons of Piquet and Schumacher. The Ferraris of Alesi and Gianni Morbidelli substituting for Alain Prost, who has been fired by Ferrari. Then Stefano Modena and Pierluigi Martini. After them, JJ Leto, the Finnish driver, and Andrea Di Cesaris in the Jordan. Emanuele Pirro and Maurizio Gugelmin. Michele Alboreto going extremely well in practice, 15th. Followed by Zanardi and Blundell with Moreno. Then Nicola Larini and Thierry Boutsen, who won in '89 in these wet weather conditions. Johnny Herbert in the
circuit.
Gerhard Berger has spun. The Austrian driver, you can see there, is in third position now, and that will have taxed him physically as well as mentally. So Nigel Mansell has got just Ayrton Senna. The two top men in the championship of 1991 are already starting to fight it out in Australia.
Yes, still have a listen to Mansell's engine as he goes past. I thought I detected on the last lap a bit of a miss, and Schumacher's having a go at Berger. Just thinks better of it. Well, I think Berger's finding life a bit difficult out there.
Well, if anybody has bad luck in the McLaren team in 1991, it's Gerhard Berger. He has already failed to finish in 7 of the 15 rounds that we've had so far. The Japanese Grand Prix he won by default rather than on his own, because Senna waved him through, and we are now on lap 4 with Ayrton Senna just under 4 seconds ahead of Nigel Mansell, who started 4th on the grid, and he had an engine problem and a clutch problem, and his clutch and gearbox were changed just before the race after the warm-up this morning.
And pity about the conditions, but the stage is set for the two top men of this year's.
If he wants to finish this race on a high note, he has won 6 races already this year. Nigel Mansell has won 5. But if there is one man in this race that Senna can not put down psychologically, it's true grit Nigel Mansell. And the gap which you see there as 3.9 seconds is now down to 2 seconds, and for the 3rd lap in succession, Mansell, who's on a fantastic charge, has put up the fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 42.95 pole position time, of course, in these dreadful conditions, and before very much longer, Mansell is going to be into that plume of spray that Senna's rear tyres are throwing up. And of course that is going to be a really inhibiting factor for Nigel in the Williams Renault. Morbidelli is 7th, Riccardo Patrese is 8th, Pirro is 9th, Perez is 10th, Modena is 11th, and Guterman is in 12th place.
And looking down from the helicopter just now, we were able to see just how much water those big groove tires can pick up and throw up into the air. And look at that for a quantity. And Mansell, well, he's pulling out, staying to one side of the plume of spray, trying to get visibility, but he really is in a very murky view indeed. And certainly he can't see anything straight ahead. He will get his bearings from looking at the side, at the track to his sides to see where he is. And just watching that plume of spray.
Yeah, and Mansell has got a bonus in the Williams Renault in comparison with that man, Ayrton Senna, the race leader. Senna is driving the McLaren with a gearbox where he has to take his hand off the steering wheel to change gears, whereas Nigel Mansell has the semi-automatic gearbox, and all he has to do is operate a rocking lever with his fingers, which means to say that he can keep both hands on the wheel all the time, and that could be, I'm sure is, very important in these appalling conditions. And look, Mansell right with Senna now.
And Schumacher's disappeared. Schumacher was behind Berger. He's dropped back. Well, he's reappeared, so Schumacher's had a spin by the look of it. And Mansell right there. Now, this is really difficult. What Nigel Mansell's doing now, he's having to pretty much guess where he is. He has virtually no visibility at all. He's doing this literally from memory of the track. But to get past, he's got to get right in tight behind Senna. And he can't stay this close for very long. He's got to make his bid and try and do it. You can't follow like that for more than a couple of laps. You'd have to drop back and have a rest. So Mansell challenging. Berger is still in touch behind them.
Piquet is now 4th as Mansell moves to the right to get out of that spray from Senna's rear wing. He has to move across to the left to go into racetrack hairpin, the right-hander, now coming up to paddock turn and down to the end of the 6th. We would have liked to see the sunshine. We would have liked to have had clear blue skies, but we haven't got them. However, up front, what a titanic struggle with Piquet there. Nelson Piquet on Pirelli tyres, the leaders on Goodyears. Maybe the Goodyear new rain tyre is doing the job slightly better than the Pirelli, although Nelson Piquet was certainly pushing it. You see, he lost the back end. It rides over the curve. That's at Stag Turn, the corner which claimed
Problemless visibility in these cars, because whilst driving in the wet and controlling these cars in wet, slippery conditions, of course, demands a great degree of skill, and that's what we all want to see these drivers use. But when you can't see where you're going, that doesn't require skill. That requires madness in a way, because it requires just guesswork, and that's bravery to a stupid extent.
That's Thierry Boutsen getting out of the Ligier, so that's the 4th retirement we know about. Larini, Alesi, Schumacher, and the 1989 winner in Australia, Thierry Boutsen's 1991 race has finished very early, and I'm sure he will be absolutely delighted in that race. So being out of it will be a good thing from his point of view. Nigel Mansell there, 2nd position. We are coming up to the completion of lap 8, which is already 1/10th distance in the Grand Prix. With Mansell there 2nd, the gap has increased to 2.7 seconds between Ayrton Senna, and that is Eric Comas, who is about to be lapped in his Ligier Lamborghini by Ayrton Senna. Now, does he know Senna's there? It doesn't really matter because he's passed him. Now, does he know that Mansell is bearing down on him? This is the Frenchman's first Grand Prix season, and he has not driven in a race like this, never mind in the Ligier Lamborghini.
Yes, and if it's possible, I think the conditions have got even worse than when we started the race, because the lap times have actually got a little bit slower. They're now lapping about 3 or 4 seconds slower than they were in the opening few laps. Well, it would appear that the race direction have decided that the accident can be cleared satisfactorily and safely, and I'm sure they're right about that. The standard direction here is extremely good. The organisers are very efficient, but the one thing they can't organise is do anything about is this weather.
You saw Schumacher parked on the left, which is a hard charging driver behind you. The opportunity's chief rival in the World Championship and this race, Ayrton Senna, lap 11. Senna, 1 point.
Cars turn so suddenly as if it hit something solid. Really horrendous conditions. This is not fun for a racing driver. Driving on a wet track when it's not raining and there's not a lot of water and spray is, as I say, challenging and demanding. But this is really a lottery.
It's a lottery now, with Senna coming up on Alex Caffey in the footwork, and Mansell may see his opportunity here. If Senna decides to go to the left, Mansell may decide to go to the right. It could happen. Senna's going to the right, Mansell nearly loses it. This is racetrack hairpin. Caffey is still in the way, and Mansell's in there somewhere. There he is, and now Senna is still held up by Caffey. No, he's not, he gets past, but it's given Mansell the opportunity to close. He started to lose it there.
Flags with that incident on the straight, and when you're under a yellow flag, of course, you're not allowed to overtake. You have to stay in line astern. So Senna, abnormal difficulty for him in getting past Caffey. Caffey's got the power on early, and he may yet still struggle.
Well, this is not a case of tiptoe through the tulips, it's a case of tiptoe down the main straight very shortly, because that's where the trouble is, and tiptoe is what they have to do. Now, Senna goes past Caffey, who moves out on Nigel Mansell, but happily sees the Williams Renault just in time. I thought there was going to be a coming together, but Nigel Mansell has got through. We are on lap 12. Now, here is where they are. They have cleared the series of right and left right-angle bends. This is Market's turn. They're coming up to the notorious Stag turn, which they've taken about 70 miles an hour, even in these conditions. Down the Jones Straight, and Mansell coming up alongside. He has a look, and he gets clear conditions there, but Senna turns into Brewery Bend. Now they're up to the tricky bit. This is the Jack Brabham Straight, where so many people have gone off. The yellow flags are waving. Senna goes through, Mansell goes through, Berger is still third, PIQUET is still fourth. You can see the track vehicle on the circuit there with its hazard light. Fifth, Morbidelli is sixth, Pirro is seventh, Cesaris is eighth, Modena is ninth, Guterman is 10th, and Zanardi is in 11th place ahead of Johnny Herbert, who went off this morning in conditions nothing like as bad as this. But he and the car were okay. This really is a race of the titans. No words of mine can explain how appalling the conditions are. Never mind when you've got 700 horsepower under your right foot. And this is lap 13.
Yes, and you really have to admire Mansell's efforts in this race. It's a horrible job he's got there in the plume of spray from Senna's car, and he's really putting on a magnificently gutsy performance here, and an extremely skilled one, because he's got very, very restricted visibility, and it's a real fine balancing act keeping that car on the road. Now, this is the area where Mansell has been quick and can attack Senna, but the problem for him is as he gets onto the straight here, they've got the accident halfway up with the yellow flags going, and he's not allowed to overtake there, even if he's in a position so to do.
And out of the Australian Grand Prix of 1991 has gone the man who made the fastest lap in the dreadful light conditions in 1989, Satoru Nakajima. He has finished his last Grand Prix in his career because he is retiring after the Australian Grand Prix. He'll be sorry, but I'm not, I think, too sorry. We're on lap 13. Out of the Australian Grand Prix have gone Nicola, Larry, Luigi Martini. How many are going to be left after 81 laps? I don't think we're going to see 81 laps completed, because the rule says that the Grand Prix distance should be 2 hours or a designated number of laps. Well, if you can't do the designated number of laps in 2 hours, it's going to be 2 hours, and we've had that before in Australia. And again, Mansell is pressing. He's dropping back, gathering himself, and then repeatedly having another go, and this is one.
Yes, and the track clearly seems to be a little bit quicker now. That's a new fastest lap for Senna. Mansell's closed right up. They seem to be finding just a little bit more grip on the circuit. Tremendous battle between these two. A fitting finish to a season where they have battled out for the championship. Well, that's Patrese. It looks like the splitter is adrift, or maybe he's picked up some debris. If you look,
yes, it's Riccardo Patrese. The whole of the under tray has worked loose. You can see it vibrating, and that, of course, is going to compound Riccardo's appalling problems in this race. He's gone from 5th to 6th to 7th, and Morbidelli is up into 5th position. There is the Italian in the Ferrari, in the points in his first race for Maranello, and you see his high-intensity rear light disappearing into the gloom as Senna and Mansell come through to complete another lap. I remember after that appalling Belgian Grand Prix, when Johnny Herbert came in to talk to me during the race, I said to him, how close do you have to be to see the red light in front of you? And he said, well, with your helmet on the lens, just about. That's how close you have to be. Senna leads, Mansell second. You can see for yourself the gap. Gerhard Berger is nearly 4 seconds behind in 3rd position.
Yes, and closing now with a new fastest lap for Berger. So he's now the fastest man on the circuit, and seems to have settled into a rhythm, and he's very much tracking the leading pair.
And I know it's early days, it's only lap 15 in this 81 lap race, but for McLaren the situation now is good for the Constructors' Championship. Ayrton Senna leads, that's 10 points. Gerhard Berger is in 3rd position, that's 4 points. Nigel Mansell is on 6 points, and Riccardo Patrese, with that loose under tray, is dropping down through the field and seems unlikely to score. In which case, McLaren, with 11 points lead when the race started, will coast it home to the Constructors' Championship again. Now there's Patrese. Look underneath the number 6.
I think that looks like somebody's front wing he's picked up. That's somebody else's front wing, and it's the problem of running over debris on the track as the leaders go through, start another lap.
Won the Drivers' Championship with Ayrton Senna in Japan. What I can't see is where Nigel... Hey, that's Gerhard Berger. Well, the conditions are getting worse. Now, I wouldn't be at all surprised if this race is going to be stopped. It's absolutely lashing down in the start and finish point. And if this race goes to 75% of its distance, which is 61 laps, it would count as a full race with full championship points. And it looks as though there's a major problem on the left there as Patrese comes through.
Yes, the rain's come down even harder. The visibility has gone. This is a replay of Berger's rather spectacular spin, bouncing it over the curbs, pirouetting, going on its tummy, and he did a very nifty departure. But really, there's cars off.
I'm mildly surprised that he doesn't know through his headphones from Ron Dennis or whoever talks to him. There's Gerhard Berger out. Well, he won't know, of course, that the race has been stopped. As far as he's concerned, a dreadful night has been followed by a dreadful day as Gianni Morbidelli walks in, and Piquet was up to 2nd position. Now, and that is Morbidelli motoring in, I think, to cross the line and activate the timing mechanism, in which case he will have been in 3rd position at the end of this lap as the race car comes in. Well, I was saying that there will inevitably be criticisms of... Now, this is Gerhard Berger. You see full lock. no adhesion, just kisses the curb onto the runoff area. He didn't hit anything, but he stalled the engine. Nigel Mansell being helped into the medical wagon. He had hurt, that's Professor Sid Watkins, who is the visa doctor who is helping him in. You remember Nigel Mansell actually hurt his leg in a football match in Spain. He was still having problems in Japan, and it may well be that the colossal contact of his spin into the concrete wall will have activated the problem. Now, I will get it out this time, probably. There will inevitably be criticisms about the organisers for starting the race at all. That is Modena being passed by Senna. But Tim Schenken decided in '89, and he decided again that the race would be go, and it's a very difficult decision to make.
Yes, it's a horrible position for Schenken to be put in, because there's a world waiting to see the race, but quite frankly, the conditions today, Patrese looks pretty angry about that, and the conditions, that was not a proper motor race, it was not a test of skill, it was a test, it was really just a lottery and luck once the conditions got really bad like that. So, a lot of cars stopped out on the circuit now, and they'll regroup, and we'll have to wait and see what the organisers intend to do. But I would imagine, at best, they'll wait for the conditions to improve with a view to restarting the race, or they may abandon altogether, because this weather looks very set at the moment, as the cloud is right down on the ground here, and there really looks no chance of an improvement.
Stefano Modena pirouetting, and at the end of the 16th lap, Ayrton Senna came through 34 seconds ahead of Piquet. That's Riccardo Patrese being chased down the pit lane by Ant Bradshaw. I don't know why he's rushing down, probably to talk to Senna. There he is. Morbidelli was in third place in the Ferrari. De Cesaris was fourth. Zanardi in the Jordan was in fifth position, and Modena was in sixth place. But normally they will count the positions on the preceding lap, and in that case it was Senna leading Mansell, who had not at that time gone off, by 2.5 seconds, with Berger third, who of course subsequently went off, Piquet fourth, Morbidelli fifth, and Riccardo Patrese in sixth position. Senna is, of course, as world champion, the man to whom people look these days as a mature state. Oh, hello, that's Riccardo Patrese going up to tell the officials what the time of day is. And I have a vague suspicion what the Italian might be saying. Ayrton Senna disappears into his garage, and now we have to. What an awful, sad situation for everybody. It's sad for the drivers, sad for the constructors, sad for Formula One Grand Prix racing, terribly sad for the spectators who have come from all parts of the world and Australia. Well, there's Ron Frost on the right, the boss man of racing in New Zealand, having a little think. He's going to get a nasty shock in a minute if Riccardo bursts in through the door. And those are those tyres I was telling you about, as Mansell's Williams is retrieved. That is one of the footwork cars on the left. I don't know whether it's Alboretto's or Caffey's. Well, look, you see, I mean, if it was you who had to say, OK, fellas, get back in the cars, put on your helmets, it's going to be very Barry Sheene there, it's going to be very dangerous, but have a go for it. And I think Barry Sheene is getting ready to talk to Ayrton Senna and find out what the Brazilian 3-times world champion thinks ought to be done about Australia 1991. Senna probably thinks it would be a good idea to sweep it into the sea, but since it's half under it already, that is not very likely. That's Nakajima's car.
The most important in our lives, you know, we are professionals, we try to run, we are ready. try all together to show that we could try to race, but we just cannot. You know, everyone is just going off, and you cannot even go in third gear on the main straight. And this is just too dangerous. I think somebody's going to get badly hurt if someone is not already hurt after those shunts. And we gotta really take in consideration for once our lives. You know.
Then, with the Australian Grand Prix understandably stopped in conditions that were even worse than 1989, came the question of what to do now. With some of the cars on the grid ready for a restart, others in their garages, drivers in a ferment over the possibility of having to belt up and go again, the officials conferred, and conferred, and conferred. Out came the red 10 board, 10 minutes to go. Then a second, a third, and a fourth. But then, with the rain obviously likely to continue, sadly, Roland Brunschereider, the race director, held out the red flag. The 1991 Australian Grand Prix was over after 14 laps. Over with a 33rd Grand Prix victory for pole position holder and clear race winner Ayrton Senna. Nigel Mansell classified second, and with a ricked neck and twisted knee, he wouldn't have been able to restart. Gerhard Berger third in the second McLaren, ahead of Nelson Piquet, last year's winner, a furious Riccardo Patrese, and with half points for today's top six, Gianni Morbidelli scored in his first race for Ferrari.
Ayrton Senna, must be one of your more difficult races.
I don't think that was a race, first of all, because it was just a matter of staying on the circuit, and was not a point to try to go quick at all, and it was impossible. We had a race, very bad one here a couple of years ago, and then was impossible, and today was even worse. There was even more water on the back straight, and you could see that all cars were flying away, flying off, hitting the wall, and surely if I was in the lead I had a little more visibility and I could take my time to make sure I would stay on the circuit, but it was just one of those things. I managed to stay on the circuit, but it wasn't a race at all.
In the end, we saw you very clearly signalling with your hands that you wanted very much the race to be stopped. Were you being told on your headset by your team that in fact they were showing the red flag, or did you not hear them at that time?
No, I didn't hear, and it was just then completely impossible to continue because it started pouring heavily water again, and you just couldn't do it. I was just cruising around in second gear everywhere, and so I was asking for the officials if they were looking in the camera of my car to stop the race.
Yes, sir.
And I was not aware that the race had already been stopped, but I only started this race really because there was a lot in stake, and the team did so much to me over these 3 years, 4 years, that there was still the Constructors Championship for them. And for that reason I started the race, otherwise I wouldn't have started. There was no point to start the race. So I said, okay, we give a try, but we keep an open mind, and if it's impossible I'll talk to you on the radio and we make a decision if I stop during the race. Otherwise I wouldn't have started.
As I don't say before, man, it was very difficult to stay on the road. There was some parts in the race was a little bit better, but then it starts raining again, and my tire pressure was very low, and I had aquaplaning just everywhere, and it was not possible to control. And the worst thing was to have some spins is okay, even to crash in a wall could be okay, but but the problem was there was a straight where I was staying cars and there was people working on it, and that was just the most dangerous place because there was the big aquaplaning, and you just know all the time if you come there you maybe cannot control it, and there are people on the road, so it was just impossible.
Martini, in fact, did have a spin on the main straight and had heavy contact with the wall. And at that time, I personally, sitting watching our monitor, feared for the marshals and the recovery crews.
I mean, if you go on the wall, if something happened like today, it's your own decision you start or not. If you don't start, you're right. If you start, it's okay. As Ayrton said before, the same reason for me. I started the race because we still was fighting for the Construction Championship, and the team did really good job this year, and I just try to close my eyes and say, okay, we go. But then if you if you crash, it's your own decision. But if you crash and there are people what are working on the circuit and you hit somebody, that's not acceptable.
Let me ask you both, because if this situation were to continue, and we're fortunate that this season really we've got off with any serious accidents occurring, but if we were to run into rain conditions of this kind again, is there a better method, Ayrton, for us to look into how the race should be stopped earlier or more positively?
We shouldn't start.
But whose decision is
Basically,
that, Ayrton?
I think it's very hard for the officials to make such a decision because there is a lot of pressure, television all over the world, and it's difficult, we understand. But I think it's, in a way, it's our own fault. We should have started as drivers. If we just get out of the cars, stick together, and make a decision ourselves, then the race wouldn't start in first place. It's always very difficult to get everyone together. I experienced it myself 2 years ago, today again, because also we have a lot of responsibility to the teams and the sponsors that give us so much, and there are moments that we have to also try to give them something, but it's very difficult to find the equilibrium, the balance on making the right decisions at every single time. But as I said, I think it was a mistake to all of us to have started, not only from the officials, it was also a driver's mistake, it was a team's mistake. We all should have had courage as a group, everyone that is here, to get together and go against it and not start the race. So it's not officials only. I also take responsibility, think as drivers, and also the team, everyone is responsible for the race having been started.
Ayrton Senna wins the 1991 World Championship, the third time in 4 years. 96 points, 24 ahead of Nigel Mansell second. Riccardo Patrese third in the second Williams, and Gerhard Berger fourth ahead of Alain Prost, absent from Australia, and Nelson Piquet. McLaren's success today meant that they finished the Constructors' Championship first, 14 points ahead of Williams, with Ferrari third, Benetton fourth, Jordan retaining the fifth position they so wanted, and Tyrrell sixth. A deflating end to a superb year of World Championship Grand Prix racing. A season that will be remembered for action all the way from America to Australia.
No, I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no, I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who pass it. I don't ever slow up, no, I don't take shit, I got no love. I got facts over facts, so attracts and fast and wanna hate this. I go rogue, I can gas, think I'm okay and that, but I don't know what that can erase all the past. I got no love, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you're about time, you're delirious, mysterious, because you are not the exterior, inferior. You know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains that last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last. Slow, speak fast, I can roast, I can gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past and the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness, hilarious, you think you're with my time, you're delirious, mysterious, because you are not nothing exterior, inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior, you wanna hit off with me, this ain't no humble brag, I want you to hear words, you can say them back, I want you to feel free from the chains that last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Never got it. Mental health is confident. Street on my mind. I'm not here to say today. That's for you to take. I don't ever slow up. No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up. No, I don't take shit. I got thoughts in my head. A collage in this spread. I'll be great one day. Going off of my legs. Oh, I'm not giving up. No, I'm not giving in. I will make it to the top. Taking off and knowing I gotta make it. I'm saving every day to taste it. I'm patient, but my mind, it can hardly take it. I'm chasing a dream that I that the seven ages of make it. Modern kingdom for the taking.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.